You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling. And now, here's your host, Jon Cross.
Hello, and welcome to the After Movie Diner. And hello, Jim. How are you this week?
I am fine. Thank you very much. Every day is the same. When will the agony stop?
Well, I tell you what, you, at the end of last week's episode, saying... No, it wasn't even you at the end of last week's episode. I've ballsed it up already. But you saying on Facebook Messenger, how about we watch a couple of really shitty Bruce Willis movies back to back because, they're set in space, didn't make the agony stop any quicker, did it? In fact,
I don't know. I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Okay, well,
I don't know that I'll ever watch another one, but I'm really interested in what you have to say. I have so many questions for you specifically.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it in a minute. We do have last week we had a comment from John. This week we have an email from Andy Lunn, which is always a good time. There was a song that I wrote about Andy Lunn, and I had the lyrics somewhere. But it's late and I'm tired and I'm not going to sing.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is either. But maybe you can splice it in, mate. They'll never know.
Well, no, that requires me going back to previous episodes and finding it, which is equally effort that I have to do. and the whole point of this podcasting venture at this point is no effort, except apparently the films you make me watch. Which claim are 90 minutes, but I swear was 3.5 hours long.
Well, it took you 3.5 hours to watch it because you kept stopping it and doing other things. That will change the length of a movie, to be fair to the movie.
Right. Well, that was because I have a sick dog that I have to look after.
I'm not disputing that the things you were doing weren't worthwhile.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, don't blame Bruce. That's what I'm saying.
All right. But yeah, we have an email from Andy Lunn. Which let's do this right now. So
let's start with Lun. Let's start with a Lun.
Let's start.
Let's kick it off with a Lun.
let's start tonight with a Lun. Hi fellas, I trust you are in fine fettle. I'm writing because I've recently been watching some Spader, so thought I'd drop you a line about the movies I saw whilst they were still...
It is nearly spring.
Fresh in my mind.
It's basically spring. Right,
if I wait until sleazy Spader springtime, I will no doubt have forgotten about them. So he's telling us about movies that two of which... We haven't covered? No, two of which you and I have covered, and one of which we covered on our New Year's Eve Andrew McCarthy-a-thon with Doc and Mo. But you and I may eventually get round to covering in a Sleazy Spader Springtime in the future, because I want to leave some distance between the Andrew McCarthy-a-thon and us officially covering it.
Of course, mate. I mean, it would be foolish not to.
I mean, talk about I set myself such arbitrary standards.
Yeah.
For this show when it's already devolved.
We don't discuss sequels. We never discuss sequels. Why not? We don't discuss sequels. We'll do them in a series. That's fine. You've got to talk about all the movies at once. That's okay.
Yes.
But I don't talk about sequels unless we've covered the original on the podcast.
Yes, I have lots of arbitrary rules and I stick to them. But and even though we've already devolved into shambolicness as a show, however, Pharaoh Venom or at JSkinnerX94X on Twitter. Tess Fowler put out on Twitter, what is your favorite podcast and why should I listen to it? Ready, set, go. And Pharaoh Venom at JSkinnerX94X on Twitter said, at After Movie Diner, because sometime you need to hear good friends enjoying each other's company and occasionally calling the other a bum face.
That seems to sum it up pretty well.
Yeah, which I have to say, even if it's one person in the universe, and we already know it's more than one, but we already know John likes it. We know Robin from Edinburgh is very chuffed with his mug. I
like the hazy shot of like a Scotland springtime day was very evocative, I thought.
With our mug. We already know that people like it. Andy Lund's continuing to write us emails. And people on Twitter are saying we love it, hearing two old friends call each other bum faces. So look, I'm in it for the long haul. And if that means that we cover a James Spader movie we've already covered on the show, but we do it a few years
anarchy,
from now.
Mate. You're throwing the rule book out the window. This is anarchy. I can't be a part of this.
Anyway,
this is clearly some kind of spiral.
Lund wants to tell us all about his response to Keys to Tulsa, Less Than Zero, and The Stick Up. So here is what he has to say about Keys to Tulsa. You had warned me not to watch this one, and although I had a feeling that I'd seen it before and that it was a turd, I went ahead anyway. I appear to have a morbid curiosity to watch movies which have generally been panned. I'm not sure why. Anyhow, you were of course pretty spot on with this one. It has very little Spader, too much Stoltz, and way too much Stoltz pubes action. As I wrote on Letterboxd, probably the best thing about the movie is the poster on which a huge version of Spader's head appears to be perving over Deborah Kara Unger having a wee. Which is lovely. Check out the poster to Keys to Tulsa. Less Than Zero, a much better movie than Tulsa, but still one that could have benefited from a lot more Spader. Did you cover this one already? I can't recall. I'll have a look. Spader is doing his best Eric Stoltz impression, only he isn't shit, and instead is slimy and sleazy. Just how we like old Jim Bob. Overall, this is a pretty good, if incredibly 80s film. I have just had a look, and of course, this was covered in the McCarthy special, which sowed the seed for this whole shebang. Silly me. The Stick Up, also known as Where Spader Met His Missus. Now, we all age, and the hands of time can be cruel, but I couldn't help thinking, while watching this, if Mrs. Spader ever harks back to making this and how her husband has certainly let the good life catch up on him in the intervening years. That aside, I had a lot of fun with this one. Spader isn't particularly sleazy, although he does get a good sweat on whilst in the bath. David Keith was okay, but imagine how great it would be if it was Keith David instead. My favorite of the three for sure. Okay, it's getting a tad chilly here in the shed, so I'm signing off and going back inside. All the best, Andy Lunn.
All emails to us should only be written from sheds.
From sheds. And I love how the shed thing is slowly catching on. Apparently, it's if we say a word enough, it sort of becomes a weirdly tiny but kind of sweet self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, no, I'm all for that.
Which I'm happy about. I hate to say it, but even though now I live in the countryside and I'm surrounded by land and woods, no shed, mate. No shed.
You need to get yourself a shed. Just get yourself a pop-up shed.
I have a garage, but no shed.
Garage, I think, at a push would do.
Yeah, but I'm not going to the garage. It's chilly.
All right. Well, maybe when we do this in the summer.
Well, I think it's much better if I sit here in the lap of cozy lazy boy chair luxury, bedecked with an old lady's blanket, and then demand my listeners go out to their sheds.
Well, they can choose what time they go to the sheds, though. We have to do this after work hours, right?
Right.
Like, that's the problem. But they can listen to it any time.
Yeah, well, exactly. You can sit at the height of sun at midday.
I mean, people are probably listening to this in the year like 2053 or something.
Yeah, we've done that riff already. We did that about we did that bit about the alien finding us on the last remaining podcast playlist on a junkie.
Oh yeah, no, I just meant it'd probably be much warmer in 2053. That's all.
If existing at all.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if people are listening to this in 2053, which they might,
I'll be 73.
Then it's probably a lot warmer. Yeah, we'll still be kicking. We'll probably still be doing this.
I'll be 73. I'll probably be surrounded by water. You know, because of the oceans rising and all that. And at least...
Is that happening in Connecticut?
At least a third of the population will be dead. You know, because of diseases.
No, we'll be in a shed. We'll be in an old people's shed.
I think that would be a wonderful ending to everything. And I mean like the universe. If it was just you, me, and then Kim and Teresa, obviously, huddled together in a shed atop like a rickety mountain while the waters rose around us, and we were just doing banal podcasts about, I don't know, James Spader's death or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of better ways to go, but I can think of worse.
Right. And basically, you know, we have to assume that there's still internet. Otherwise, we're just recording nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, otherwise we're just
but who's listening anyway? If we're the last people on Earth. I don't think it just like, we just speak into like hairbrushes. Do you know what I mean? Like we're, you know what I mean? Like we're in a band when we're 8.
Yeah, but we're 73.
Well, we're 73.
And it's like a Gilliam animation where the shed is in probably like teetering on the top of a fake looking mountain.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at.
No, okay. I'm all for that.
And we all have to spread out in the shed so that it doesn't overwhelm.
Yeah, it doesn't tip over. Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah, that's doable.
Yeah. So that's how we're going to end our existence. Although I felt like existence was ending while I was watching this week's film. So people will remember, or they won't. Because they didn't get to the end of last week's episode, and if they did, they were half asleep again. Are they still talking? But at the end of last week's episode, because I do like some sort of continuity here.
Of course you do, mate. You've got rules, you've got standards until you don't.
Jim had originally said, hey, just like we did with the Pleasancing 2, let's promote your new album and kind of do something filmically with the new album. And I said, giving Jim carte blanche, I said, how about you just pick 4 to 6 songs off the album, and you know, all the titles of the songs are kind of evocative. You know, see what movie pops into your head when you look at a song title. And it can be anything you want. It can be a weird B movie, or it can be, you know, a well-known movie, whatever. Like, just use it as the springboard, and we'll kind of shackle it together as a series. And then in the middle of the week, Jim went, "Nah, I don't want to do that. It's too much brain power required.
Too much effort.
Actually listen to the album.
To draw like lines from one thing to another thing. Who's got the time?
I bet he hasn't even listened to the album. Anyway,
I've listened to the album.
Anyway.
I can't be listening to the album and then thinking about the movies and then drawing between the two. Just can't do it.
It's too much effort. Anyway,
it's too much effort.
Because I am a wonderful and benevolent podcast host, said, "Oh, all right, then what do you want to do?" And he said, "There's this really shitty Bruce Willis movie I've heard about."
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that there's this really shitty Bruce Willis film. What I said was, there's a film with Bruce Willis on an ark in space being attacked by an alien. I really want to watch that.
Yeah. And what were the puns that I predicted were much better than this movie that you were coming up with?
I can't remember now. What were the puns?
You don't have an ark.
Ark. That's right, because it was all about an ark. So it was Ark, The Herald Angels Kill, I think was one of them. It Ain't Ark Hot Mum. That was one.
I think Andy Lunn likes that one in particular. I think Andy Lunn is a fan of It Ain't Ark Hot Mum.
I quite like Ark, the Herald Angels Kill.
So here's
something else.
Here's the actual conversation we had.
I want quotes. I never said shitty.
Okay, so it starts off. I said, "Any idea what you want to do Thursday?" And Jim says, "There are some really fun VOD titles. The Nick Cage in an amusement park feels like one we definitely would have gone to see if we could." And I said, "Wait, what song do we tie that to? What song off the album does that film make you think of? And is it streaming anywhere, or do we have to rent it? I'm not against renting it." And then Jim goes, "I was just idly looking at movies to rent on Amazon, and there were quite a few that looked like movies you and I would have gone to see if we could. Wasn't thinking about the album so much as supporting smaller movies in a tough time." What about supporting my smaller album in a tough time? That's what I want to know.
Well, I've already done that.
And then I said, "I thought the whole idea we agreed on was around the album. But happy to just rent some stuff instead if you want. Look at me being so accommodating and accepting. I say, then I look up Willy's Wonderland, which is the Nick Cage one that's getting some Cage specific hype online. And it's $19.99 on Amazon, and that's for rental, not even for purchase. Bugger that. And you said, oh no, not that one then. And I said, look at the album song titles and then get inspired like we planned. But likewise, if you're balls to the album and I'm sick and bleeding tired of your bloody album, I wouldn't blame you either. And you said, it's not that so much as just not having the mental energy right now to join the dots. I can only just about handle finding a movie I fancy watching, if you know what I mean. Also, because I now really, in capital letters, want to watch the Bruce Willis gets attacked by an alien on a space ark movie, and I'm not sure any of your songs cover that one. I know you're going to say no to that one, but please, Bruce Willis on a space ark! Exclamation point. And I said, it's meant to be fucking awful, but okay, what channel? And you go, being attacked. And I'm like, what streaming channel? And you're like, by aliens. I'm like, okay. And then you said Amazon, I think. And then you go, woohoo, like a little kid in a candy shop. And then I said, it's meant to be atrocious, but this will be another Anger of the Dead, so don't say I didn't warn you. And you go, but he's out there making these movies happen like a bloody hero. I'm like, but okay, all right. What's it called again? You said no idea. I was too excited by the premise to notice. And then you say Ark-pocalypse. And I confused it with Cosmic Sin, because that's the sci-fi movie he has coming out like right away that everyone's been talking about. You then go, it ain't Ark Hot Mum. And then I said, and that looks to be $6.99 on Amazon. You go, bargain. And then you say, Ark the Herald Angels Kill. And then I say, no way it's going to be as entertaining as these puns. And then you say, I miss going to see these Mad B movies with you. Even when they're bad, I love that I get to watch them. And sometimes they're great. I said, wait, you're talking about Breach, not Cosmic Sin, because Willis has made more than one abysmal space movie. These will not be good. I'm such a negative Nilly. And you go, that's amazing. And I said, but weirdly, I'm willing to do both of them. Breach this week and Cosmic Sin next week. And you said, if the first doesn't kill us, I say yes. And I said, okie dokie, shitty Willis season begins. You said, you are a legend. Cheers, man. These are the movies I need right now. Will it be good or will it be bad? The diner has the answer. So that's what the
season should be called. Will it be good or will it be bad?
Yeah. Oh, I get it.
If it's going to be a season, it doesn't have to be a season.
Now you say it, I get the pun. I hadn't got the pun before, but now I get the pun. Will it be good or will it be bad? I get it. Right. Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. That is brilliant.
As a season title goes, it's not bad, right?
I have been so tired that I had not put that together, but that's
right.
Is
too tired for puns.
And now, before we get started on whatever the bleeding hell we're about to get started on, you'll see, and you'll enjoy it, and you will enjoy it. There are some bleeding adverts. I'm sorry about these bleeding adverts. The After Movie Diner does not endorse any of these advertisements, but we have to have them to keep the podcast hosted on the Spreaker platform. 'Tis a requirement, and we try not to have too many per episode. But the corporate overlords that control this podcasting platform demand our pint of blood. So coming up is probably some bleeding Geico crap or something. I don't know. Just ignore it. Just, I don't know, go take a poop for 45 seconds while these adverts are on, and then come back to what is sure to be another podcast episode. So, will it be good? Will it be bad? Let us begin. Okay. Or will us begin? I don't think we will, because it's already been 30 minutes, and people are like, do they just talk bollocks for 30 minutes? And we're like, yes.
Yes, that's what we do.
And when we talk bollocks, someone on Twitter responds to someone asking the reasonable question of what's your favourite podcast and why, and someone says, this one, because sometimes you need two old friends calling each other a bumface. So with that, Captain Bumface, would you like to tell everybody all about Breach?
Well, I'd like to say that regardless of anything else, we have seen a film where basically Bruce Willis plays a space janitor who kills aliens with moonshine that he brewed.
Yes.
That's the movie that we saw. I know it's nowhere near as good as that sounds, but nonetheless,
I'm not sure how good that sounds, but okay.
About a space janitor that kills aliens who are attacking him with home-brewed moonshine.
Let me put it another way. Okay. We've seen a movie by someone who's watched Red Dwarf, The Thing, Alien, and Thomas Jane's Punisher.
And I don't know if he's watched Thomas Jane's Punisher so much as like Thomas Jane was like rootling around. Like Thomas Jane reminds me of Carl Weathers in Arrested Development. Do you know what I mean? Like I bet he did it for a stew. You know what I mean? Like he's so. What is Thomas Jane even doing here? But I don't think he's seen Red Dwarf. It's a mix of.
Dude, this was
Alien.
Filmed. This was actually filmed. I'm going on record. I don't even know if this is true, but I'm saying it's true right now. This was filmed on sets left over after someone went up to Chris Barry and went, "No more Red Dwarf ever, Barry. Shut up." And these were the sets that were around him.
Well, okay, but look, I have a whole heap of questions about this movie that I'm fascinated to talk about, right? Okay. And one of them is...
Yes.
Right. I don't think I've ever seen a movie as low budget as this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've never seen anything where there's things like...
Well, you've seen Farley's movies.
No. Okay, that's true. But even then, I know it's low budget, those ones, right? But in many cases, they don't... It's, people walking around towns or whatever. I know it's low budget, but it could be, in theory, deliberate, right? In theory. As opposed to this one, where they want it to be a multi-million-dollar space spectacle, and it's not. But it's things like the obvious plot point of be careful of that cleaning solution. It'll eat through anything. Right, cool. And I know you showed us a bit where it like falls on a table and eats through the table, but you've put it in a plastic bottle. I can see it's a plastic bottle. Like, there's so many like delightful examples of.
Well, not only that, but
like just complete blindness. Yeah. Not to because this is my question, right?
Yeah, it doesn't melt through plastic though. It only melts through metal tables and people's faces.
and aliens.
Well, but also, if you go with the logical conclusion that it melts through a metal table, and if you spilled it on that metal table and it melted through the table and then kept going, it would melt a hole through the spaceship, which I presume is made of metal.
That's true, but then sometimes they fire bullets. Sometimes they fire moonshine. It's not consistent.
No,
I think if we get into plot points, we are lost.
Sometimes the zombies come running at you and bite your neck off in a matter of seconds, and other times they're willing to engage in rather feeble fist fighting and rolling about.
It didn't make me think. Otherwise, it wouldn't be war without killing. Otherwise, it'd be like nasty pushing and shoving. Like that's what it made me think of. Right?
Yeah.
No, my favourite thing about the zombies, by the alien zombies, is I'm so glad they brought their own trampolines.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It was very considerate to go, look, I know we are alien zombies and therefore we need to attack quickly.
Yeah.
We're not actually cut out for that in our alien zombie ways. So make sure, lads, when we attack the ship, bring your trampolines so you can bounce on them onto people. It was brilliant. But what I want to know, because this is
so let's start at the beginning then, and we'll go.
Okay, so I'll do my plot.
Yeah.
So the plot is as a plague. So they're like taking people off the Earth on a ship that looks suspiciously like the car park out the back of a warehouse, and
both inside and outside. I mean, the outside of the ship, they don't even bother to design. Like, this is the other thing, is they have access to CGI, not very good CGI, I might add, but they have access to something that can render something that looks a bit like a spaceship. And they go, just draw a box. Just draw a box.
Now, listen, we'll get, because I'm so interested by the psychology behind this.
Yeah,
and the reason I wanted to talk to you about it.
But you have to allow me to comment sometimes about.
No. Of course. I'm sorry. But when I was watching, I was thinking, I so want to talk to you about this because I'm fascinated by, like, how this could have been done, like, better without a whole lot of effort. Because you've seen a lot more like low budget movies than me, right? Especially like Corman stuff and whatever. I've never seen anything that looked this shonky. I've seen some shonky stuff. I've watched Doctor Who from the 70s, right? This is like at that level. It's like that level of shonkiness. Like, we've got to make a Doctor Who episode. We've got like 4 days to make one.
Right. What
can you rummage out of the back of the cupboard?
Right.
Anyway, but let me do the plot. So I'm sorry. Plague, putting people on the non-plague humanity onto a ship, firing them into space. Thomas Jane is the admiral. And when he conveniently like addresses the troops at the beginning, then goes into hibernation so that he's not really in the movie because they couldn't afford him for the whole movie. And then, but his daughter is on board, and she's brought her like boyfriend / father of her unborn child, and he has somehow got a job as a janitor on the ship. I love the fact that they've got like 8 crew members, 3 of them are janitors. It's completely brilliant.
Right.
When you think about it, not one janitor, which would have been great, like 3 janitors minimum for like an 8-person crew. We need 3 soldiers. Cool. How many doctors? 1 doctor's probably fine. Okay, fine. And janitors. Listen, never do less. Never do space with less than 3 janitors. So anyway, one of them's a janitor. So they're in space.
Also,
everybody gets put to sleep.
All of the people being taken to New Earth, right, are in stasis. The only people who aren't are like the 8 crew members, the janitor, and whatever, right? Yet there's enough cleaning to be done on this spaceship that they only get like an hour's sleep at night or something.
Yeah.
And there are whole montages of them cleaning things. I'm like, who's dirtying this? There's only
that's what I love.
you.
What I like is they took off on a ship. It's like, look, it's not clean. It's not ready. It's sort of like, when you get on the plane and it's like they've turned it around and there's still like bits of biscuit on the seat or whatever. It's like that's the spaceship they've used clearly. 3 janitors minimum for this trip, I'm telling you. So they're on the thing. Also, my favourite thing is for the first half an hour of the movie, 45 minutes of the movie, I was like, what is Bruce Willis's job? Because as far as I can tell, he's like a janitor judge. He just stands nearby the janitor and like critiques his janitorial skills. That's it. That's all he does.
Not only that,
he just drinks and goes, you don't want to clean it like that. You want to use another liquid.
He's like head janitor. He's like king of the janitors.
Is that what he is? Is he head janitor? I couldn't figure it out.
He's head janitor.
I thought after a while, he's wearing blue, and some of the security people are wearing blue. So does that mean he's a security person?
And he's introduced by walking onto the spaceship. Right?
That's right.
Because apparently all of the crew sit up front in like cheap cinema seating as they go into warp drive, right? Willis, who's an old hand at this, he's been doing it forever, which doesn't make any sense considering they've only just started flying to New Earth. Like, this is like the 2nd or 3rd trip they've ever done. But he's an old hand.
No. To be fair, they must have done more. And now this does lead, or rather lend credence to our theory, because they say there's 50 million people on New Earth and there's 300,000 people on the ship. So that's a few trips.
Oh, okay. So he's been doing it for a while. Okay, that makes sense.
And that's why presumably they need 3 janitors.
He comes in, nobody says his name. I'm still not fully sure of his name.
It is literally the word. That's what I mean about I'm fascinated to know how this happened. So carry on.
He hugs one guy. And he's, so-and-so, you son of a bitch. And they hug, right, like men. Then the next guy comes up. He just punches him in the face. No context. The guy gets up and goes, yeah, I deserve that. Then they hug again. I'm like, what?
So that guy was like, I'm only on the ship because I brought your daughter here. Like, I found your daughter. And he's like a bit of a rapscallion. He was promised something and then he didn't get it. So are you like on the ship? Anyway, it doesn't matter. He dies anyway, that bloke.
But he gets punched in the face, then they hug. Then Willis comes over to our hero in quotation marks, who basically looks like a guy who would have been the guy who was playing bass for a 90s pub band in Manchester, who would get fired for being too drunk, only to be replaced by a guy who was really good, and then that band became like the Stone Roses or whatever. That's what he looks like. Like he looks
right.
like that guy.
That is on the nose. That is exactly what he looks like.
He didn't even bother to comb his hair. Like
he did. He even brought with him the inner like crushing disappointment.
Yeah, it totally. He looked like and the boiler suit and everything just matched his level of enthusiasm, which was very low indeed. But then the next thing, so Bruce Willis hugs a guy, punches another guy, who goes, "Yeah, I deserve that. Let's hug anyway, men." Then Bruce Willis comes over to aforementioned drunk bass player of a 90s indie pub band, and is all like, get out of my seat. And I'm like, wait, King of the Janitors has a seat. Apparently has a seat up front, mate. King of the Janitors, very important on a ship this dirty, which apparently is very dirty ship.
Very dirty.
So the first thing we're like, so wait a minute, is Bruce Willis a nice guy or a massive asshole or a bit of both? And it turns out he's a bit of both, which is fine. But that's how we're introduced to Bruce Willis. There's no like, turn around, look at the camera, grin, I'm Bruce Willis. It's just walk in, hug a guy, punch another guy, and then get the fuck out of his seat.
Okay, but quick question. Okay, let me finish it because the plot's so incredibly easy. So, for reasons that aren't explained, in any kind of an adequate way, there's a rebellion. Oh, which I really like the graffiti that says "Long live to the rebellion." You can't even graffiti properly, movie.
No.
It's "Long live the rebellion." Long live to the rebellion is not a thing. Anyway, whatever. So the rebellion are rebelling by blowing up the ships and killing loads of people because humanity doesn't deserve to live on. It's all very spurious. So somebody mysterious in a hood brings like something on board, and it's like some weird thing.
It's
obviously an alien, and it like affects it. It gets into somebody's beer, and he drinks the beer and swallows the alien, and the alien like bursts him from the inside out.
By the way, the alien, which is taken from Slither and what's the Tom Atkins movie with all the Night of the Creeps, is a huge fucking slug, and it goes into his beer, and he drinks the beer, and then he's like, "Oh, did I like swallow a peanut or something?" Like his reaction is like, "Oh, there was a bit of like food in my beer," and like, "You just ate a slug, mate." Like it's a whole. Like you're
right. I was thinking that too. I was like, that's not the appropriate. I drank a wasp once accidentally in like a glass of apple juice, and I nearly freaked the fuck out.
Right.
Because you can tell it's like, that's not supposed to be there. That's not supposed to be there. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, is that a peanut? Like you say. So anyway, then the slug exploded the guy, then goes into another guy, and it turns him into like a murderous vessel. What's very handy. Again, it's not explained in any way. What's very handy is the alien has a the alien's purpose is not to like kill people and live, right? The alien's purpose is specifically, despite being a small slug, is to infect hundreds of thousands of people and like give them to the ship's reactor in order to make it speed up, crash the ship into the planet, and destroy the planet and everybody on the ship. That's the alien's purpose. Even
though the end, what I love about it is the movie goes, and I knew this was happening, like I saw this a mile away. The movie has an ending that negates the whole movie. Because the aliens have already, I'm going to spoil it because please, nobody watch this movie. But the aliens have already got to New Earth. They've already overtaken New Earth. So their plan to like kill everyone on board the ship
you're right.
Fire it as a missile at New Earth doesn't make any sense because the aliens already have New Earth. And I knew that. Listen, like I knew that was going to negate itself.
I do think we have to be careful. That's a very good point because I didn't think about that. But I do think there's just there isn't a logical plot point to be found in the entire movie.
No.
If we can think of one, I would be astonished. It's complete, like, just madness from start to finish. Nothing joins up at all. So anyway, the rest of the movie is then taken up with them like fighting off the zombie aliens. They're kind of like they look like Walking Dead, although they're possessed by aliens. They look like they look like the makeup artist on this film was like, I can't do makeup. I could spit ink in your face. Like would a kind of ink? Would an inky face do? Yeah.
Like, could I do inky face? And they would be like, is that all you've got? And they're like, well, you are only paying me in sandwiches. For sandwiches, you get inky face. That's what you get.
Yeah, which I think is fair. So then there's a bunch of bits that don't make any sense, including leaving a room on one level in a vent, staying on that same level of the vent, and then around the corner you're suddenly above people, 6 feet above people in the corridor next to the room you just left. it's completely fabulous. It's like it's almost like a dream state.
You've missed the greatest plot point of all.
Oh, go on.
Which is that, and I don't know if it's everybody in this world or whether it's just Bruce Willis, but Bruce Willis has the ability to also be a hologram anywhere he wants to be a hologram.
That was there were other characters, because they did do some foreshadowing there where there were other characters, but I didn't get what they were, because it looks like, it's just a hologrammatic representation of me, right? I'm in this room talking, but I'm looking at you in another room, and that's how that works, right? Standard, like, you're in one room and I'm seeing that as a hologram and I'm talking to you, and you're in that room looking at me as a hologram. That's the standard hologram arrangement. Right. But this one appears to be, I'm an AI representation of Bruce Willis, giving you advice on which way to go down a corridor, even though I can't see because I'm just a hologram. But I'm going, turn left with great confidence. You know what I mean? I'm going, I don't know where you are. I'm a fucking hologram. And equally, like, Bruce Willis having a completely different conversation in, like, the next room, like, figuring something else out. Like, so what's the floating hologram head? Where's that from?
But not only that.
Is it like the madness of Willis's mind? You know what I mean?
There was
broken free?
There was one scene where indie 90s pub bassist comes round the corner.
We've got to think of a name for him. You know what I mean? I've got to think of, like, a good 90s pub bassist name.
Yeah. But he comes around the corner and Willis is, like, 2 feet from him. And Willis still deploys a hologram to say, what do you want? Instead of just turning around and saying, what do you want?
So does do that. It's so great. And then he turns around and Bruce Willis is like, Mah! And then, like, hologram Bruce Willis is like, I'm dead now. I don't exist. Like, wait, what? But he didn't say anything. We were there. It's great.
But all the time, the holograms are like full people. They're like full representations of people.
Yeah.
Then
except when you come on now, except when you're in an event.
When you're in an event.
Only ahead.
When
that's
you're just
obvious.
ahead. When you're just ahead. Also, it's not like he's just a floating severed head. He's like a head with like red square and some other bits.
Yeah, there's like detail. There's detail. There's numbers. Vital numbers.
As if it's on like a computer screen or something. But it's not a computer screen. It's a hologram. And then sometimes he can see it and sometimes he can't. Like on the shot looking down the vent, he can see Bruce Willis's head. But on the side view, you can't see Bruce Willis's head. And I'm just like, is he there? Is he not there? Is this a visor? Is this magic? Like what? Totally bananas.
I think it's fantastic. It's so much stuff like that.
You also forgot the fact that hologrammatic Bruce Willis head can also fake out the guy crawling around in the vent. Because he goes, quick, they're coming for you. So he scurries like through 2 vents really quickly. And then hologrammatic Bruce Willis head is like, I got you there. I'm like, what?
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, hologrammatic Bruce Willis, who's an entirely separate being, has a sense of humour. And is he the only one that survived the crash? It's like Bruce Willis's hologrammatic head flying around like the alien world as we speak, like faking out aliens. Be like, whoa, behind you! Nah, only kidding. God bless you. God bless you.
God bless you. I'm Bruce Willis's hologrammatic head, and I'm a bit of a James to me. Don't worry about the fact that the spaceship that your pregnant wife-to-be is on is overrun by flesh-eating, mad, alien zombie creatures. I've got time to make you scurry through a vent a bit faster. I think one of
my favourite... Okay, can we talk about what's your favourite low-budget moment? I mean, closest to trampolines, but definitely for me, my favourite low-budget moment is when he goes into the set they've built for the room, where the wife is in the cargo, the
stasis pod.
The stasis pods, right. And clearly in the script, it's like he hides behind the stasis pods as the monsters come, right? But they've built the stasis pods in a very brightly lit room, and they're only about 2 foot tall. So when he crouches down behind the stasis pod in a brightly lit room, and they walk past him about a foot away, and it's just the best, obviously not a hiding place. And nobody thought, we should film this differently or turn the lights down or open up the thing so at least he can hide behind that. Like nothing. They just keep shooting and keep moving. It's a glorious example of we've got to keep going. We just have to keep going.
Yeah, we just have to keep going. I don't know what my favorite low budget moment was. It was probably my favorite low budget moment was the fact that halfway through what I thought was a gun battle with the zombies, it turned into the most ramshackle fight sequence you've ever seen, where zombies were sort of doing forward rolls. They were doing forward rolls, and I think someone tried to do karate. I think there was maybe someone in the background.
There were many trampolines in that scene. There were a lot of trampolines.
It was all that kind of stuff that was amazing to me. But and it's funny, as I start thinking about low budget moments, I'm thinking about that question you posed to me at the beginning, which we can get to in a bit, about how we could make this better. But I'll talk to that in a minute, because when you said what was your favorite moment or what was your favorite low budget moment, the first thing that came to my head was the bit where, for no apparent reason, when Thomas Jane comes out of stasis, he brings his army, in quotation marks, who looked like a bunch of guys who were probably just hanging around the car park's canteen at the time, and the filmmaker went, "Oh, please put on these matching jumpsuits and come into my film." But when Thomas Jane's like, "Let's go kill him," or whatever, has a line that's like that, because they couldn't even bother to write a decent pun or line or anything, and they all, in synchronicity, all synchronized, put their guns up to form a neat little, the ones on the left put their guns up to the left, and the ones on the right put their guns up to the right, and it's they're about to take a picture of them and their guns. You know what I mean? It was this little choreographed moment, and I was like, that's just, and you know where it comes from? It comes from the filmmaker going I want to throw everything in here, so let's throw in a kind of James Cameron Aliens meets kind of a Bruce Campbell B-movie kind of thing, with some COD heroics and some COD braggadocio and some mad synchronized soldiers kind of thing, because that's sort of funny and wacky and a bit nod, wink, wink. So let's do that. Even though it doesn't amount to anything, because they all just go out and get killed. But that little moment there, and this will be put into my list of things you did wrong, was that he said, instead of keeping it lean, because he had a good idea to begin with. The good idea is there's 8 people, the rest of the people are in stasis, so I can have a big moment at the beginning with lots of people getting on the ship. And and then we can have a bit at the end where all the people from stasis come up as zombies and attack. Both those ideas are fairly decent, but then the bulk of my film is going to be this neat, stripped down, 8 people, things happening, mystery, whatever. But he abandons that. I'm saying he, of course, how horribly presumptive of me. I'm just assuming that there's no way that a woman would ever make a film like this. What I love about it is his name's John Suits. Johnny Suits.
There's no way he's not. Where's he from? That's not his name.
His name's John Suits. He has been a director and producer on multiple broadcast commercials and branded content films for clients including the NBA, WNBA, Microsoft, Pepsi, Buffalo Wild Wings, State Farm, Dove, Goodyear, Ruffles, the UPS store. You know, exactly like you want all your best directors to start off from someone who's filmed a Dove commercial. I've often watched a Dove commercial and gone, I wonder what the director of this Dove commercial would make if given the money for a movie. What's utterly depressing is he's 3 years younger than me. The bastard. Oh, he produced Cheap Thrills. That was also... Everyone loved that movie and I thought it was bollocks. Oh, and he produced Bad Milo, which was all right. It wasn't great, but... Oh, that's how he... Oh, right. He did an advert for, like, Die Hard is Back or whatever. So that's how he got Bruce Willis, I guess.
Okay, well, that's another question that I desperately want an answer to. But
just to finish off the plot. He's produced some
actually, no, we're done, right? We're done with the plot. Like, the alien attacks. They wake up the Thomas Jane, like the Admiral and his army. There's a big fight, which they lose. So that's kind of it. That's kind of the plot.
Yeah, but no. So sorry. What I was saying was about like making it better, whatever. Is that rather than doing what Carpenter or the original Alien or even Evil Dead 2 or whatever does so well, which is let's put the money where it needs to be. Let's not waste a ton of money on the cast. Let's get the best character actors we can find for the money, or let's get our mate from childhood in the case of Evil Dead, and let's put all our money into the lighting and the monster and the special effects and the stuff where we really need it to shine. This movie, on the other hand, decides, no, what we need in the middle of it is 20 superfluous extras, all dressed in the same thing, all with new guns, who are going to do a little, pose and then, run out and get killed. And it's just, and Thomas Jane and all this other stuff. And I was just like, I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to have, a bit of, levity and forced braggadocio in the middle of this movie, but you're putting your money in all the wrong places. Nobody needs to see that. Do zombies better. Start there. You know what I mean?
No, I do. I think so. This is why I wanted to talk to you, right? Because it just occurred to me, it's it can't be difficult to do this better. Everything I'm looking at is so incredibly shonky, and I don't think it's cynical. You know what I mean? I don't think it's cynicism. It's just there's sort of I couldn't figure out basically if it was I have a grand vision for making a cross between Alien, Aliens, The Thing, Walking Dead, right? All these things that I think are really great and really cool. And I'm not interested in using my imagination, because this is my thing, right? And this is what I was thinking anyway. And I want to talk to you about it because I wasn't sure if I was just wrong. If there was a way of shooting it, either lighting it or the way the sets are built or something that doesn't make it look so obviously like we've got one corridor and one room, right. And even when he kicks the vent out, it's just don't put any light. It's so obvious he's just kicked into the back of the set. You know what I mean? There's not a vent back there. If you had no light at all, if you bothered to cover it, then it might look like a vent. I can see that. If it's just darkness, it would look like a vent. We would fill that in, but it's full of this is it that they've got no money and they're doing the best they can, or is it that because I hadn't thought of it like what you just said, but is there a way of putting the money where you need it and then shooting the rest of it in a tighter way, or the way it's edited together or something, just to make it look less obviously shonky? Ultimately,
I mean, look, my first point would be this: don't do this movie. And I'll explain what I mean by that.
No, I know what you mean.
I know that sounds silly, but I'll explain what I mean.
I know.
You don't have a story you want to tell. You don't have a concept for ultimately what you're trying to do. It is on the surface, the ultimate movie of, well, I like The Thing, I like Aliens, I like this, I like that. I've got a car park with some grey paint, and a couple of cushions, and I've weirdly got Bruce Willis and Thomas Jane. That's something, right? Like, it's so obviously that, right? So my first thing would be, Mr. Dove Commercial Man, step back and go, what is it that you have? Like the best, all the independent films of any genre that have ever stood the test of time and done well at all, they all basically follow what became the Robert Rodriguez principle, but was sort of the same no matter what, which is, what do you have, like, to hand that you can actually, shoot that is production value without needing to be production value, right? I think famously Robert Rodriguez had like a tortoise, a guitar case, and a bus, and he was like, "Fine, I'm gonna make a movie in which I have, a tortoise, a guitar case, and a bus," right? Kevin Smith had a convenience store. George A. Romero had a big house in the big farmhouse he could use, and a bunch of mates who were willing to like cover themselves in grey paint and eat bones or whatever. Like, whatever you have, that's what you do. And the second thing is then, what is the best story I can tell with those items? This movie doesn't do any of that. This movie goes, I like a bunch of movies, and I want to kind of just have fun recreating them, and somehow I've convinced Bruce Willis and Thomas Jane to be a part of my folly. And can I make this car park in Bratislava look remotely like a spaceship? Like, that's what this movie has, and it seems to me to be completely the wrong way to tackle this film. However, if we say he has a car park in Bratislava that his uncle owns that looks a bit like a spaceship, and he goes, well, what can I do with this car park and the spaceship? So in other words, this movie has to get made. How do we make this movie better? The first thing you do is you strip down the core 45 minutes of the movie, and you make it you either make it a who's the alien, right, which has been done 100 times, or you make it a slasher film type setup, which is someone's the alien and the alien is killing people, and they don't need to be a zombie, and they don't need to have CGI tongues, and they don't have to none of that needs to happen. They could just be, I'm an alien, I drank a bug, I'm now possessed, I'm now murderous, and I'm going to be picking off the cast one by one. And as I pick the cast off one by one, the cast realizes what's happening, and they've kind of got to do a bunch of things. You've already got your ending built in. Your ending is, I've got to get my pregnant wife off the ship before it either self-destructs or the alien eats us or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter what's happening. You have the countdown at the end of the movie, and I've got to get my pregnant wife off the ship before something happens. Like, that's your climax. Like, you don't need anything more complicated than that. If you want to make it, all the aliens are fucking running into the reactor and making the ship go faster, fine. But that's so cumbersome and ridiculous and pointless.
And also requires you to spend presumably money on a reactor that, right, just to make your point, which is a really interesting one. And this is why I really wanted to talk to you about it, because it didn't occur to me to think of it that way. The idea of because the point is, right, and this is something I was like cluing into on I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like on a psychological level. I was clued into the difference between like what you're saying and what Farley does so well, which is what have we got? What's the story we can tell?
Right.
How do we just keep moving and get it done? Right. This one appears to be like, I have a vision of favorite bits of movies, things I've seen in movies that I think are great. I'm going to try and recreate those things, because as far as the director is concerned, it's better to make those movies right? To be making like multi-billion-dollar, space epics. That's the best kind of movie there possibly is. Those are the movies that I want to see. Anything else he's not interested in. He's not interested in anything smaller or working around a problem. He's only interested in being the guy that's directing a Marvel movie or whatever, right? That's what he wants to be. So it's about, how do I best accomplish that vision with what I've got? So everything in the movie is like, the reactor needs to be there because, like, in a Marvel movie, right, there's going to be some big red glowing, like, menacing fucking thing in the beginning of the screen, and it like hums and it pulses and it like draws things in, and it's like a spooky, like, it's a power we're not quite in control of, like, there's like, it makes you feel things. But without that, it's just a red light bulb in a fucking box, which is right. What this is. And he's not interested in, like you're saying, like, what's the thing I need to make the story go? Right. He's interested in, how do I get close to the bit in the Marvel movie that looks like this, right? And everything in the movie falls down, I think, because he's completely blind to what he's doing actually looks like. He can only see in his head, right? Like, that's what's in front of him, and he's just trying to get... So he's constantly, this is my theory, he's constantly lying to himself all the way through the movie about how good everything looks. He's not in any way looking at what he's got with a critical eye, because he can't have, right? He can't have looked at the sets and the dailies and anything and thought, yep, we're nailing this. We're definitely making the best of what we've got,
There's one other point. I made it before, but there's one other point, is that while digital film has meant that people can shoot quicker and shoot cheaper and more films can be made and they can be projected quicker and easier and they can be put on streaming services easier and blah, 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 blah. All of that is true. The B movies of old, the reason why 60s, 70s, and 80s, primarily those B movies, and early 90s, why those B movies and those VHS movies got away with way more than they do now, is that when shooting on film, right, you immediately had that veneer of film. Like, it immediately looked like a film. Like, you couldn't get away with... Like, I remember when the first, like, shot on VHS or shot on mini DV films started to come out, when, like, Troma and Charles Band and a couple of other, like, B-movie guys who were running out of money for film went, oh, fuck it, we'll just shoot it on VHS, or we'll shoot it on mini DV, or we'll shoot it on early camcorders. And there's a certain charm to them, but it's definitely lacks... unless you've really got some production value, it looks like you're looking at a home movie, and there's no way of getting around it. You're just like, you can have all the whiz-bangery you like. You're like, it looks like a home movie. And the problem with digital is that, unless you're Fincher, or unless you're Nolan, or unless you're someone who has, billions of dollars to make digital film look like film, right? With the best cinematographers and the best, lighting guys and everything else, you are way better sticking to what we've been talking about, which is legitimately what Charlie and Farley do so well, which is what do we have and how can we best utilize it to, and as their core cast have grown, they've got, and as Farley's renown has grown, it's like, oh, we now have a cupcake shop. Oh, we now have an arcade room. We now have a library where Charlie's wife works. Like, they now have places where they're like, well, okay, what can we do in these spaces? And let's, like, expand it from my backyard a little bit. It's like when Don Dola met Joe Ripple. Joe Ripple had worked at the police for a long time and had access to, a police car and some uniforms, and could call up the local precinct and be like, we're shooting a car chase, leave us alone for 20 minutes or whatever. And it meant that while shot on video, Dola's later films could at least have a little bit of, low budget pizzazz about them, because he had some more stuff available to him. And it's always the best thing to run with. the handicap you're always going to have making a low budget movie nowadays is that unless you take care and unless you focus on lighting and unless you think a little bit about costume and makeup and other stuff, your film is going to look shit. And the problem with this movie in terms of the sets, especially with like the set that's meant to be like the spaceship's canteen, or the set that's meant to be where all the stasis pods are, or whatever, he's decided, in reality on spaceship, I mean, he's said to himself, well, they would have very cold, harsh strip lights, so let's have this set have cold, harsh strip lights. And I'm like, yeah, but then when you shoot it, it's why in other movies when they have cold, harsh strip lights, like in hospitals or in or on spaceships or in car parks or whatever, the strip lights are always like grotty or rusting, or one of them is out, or one of them is flickering, or it's lit from, like, they find ways around it. You never shoot something with like those fucking I forget what the powder is in them now, but you know what I mean, those like harsh strip lights, because everything looks like bollocks, everything looks like vomit. But he decides, no, we're going to go with that. The other thing that he doesn't do, and this is, he may watch a lot of movies and like a lot of movies, but he hasn't learned from the movies at all. And that is one of the key elements to low budget filmmaking. One of the biggest key elements of low budget filmmaking is sound. If you can get your sound effects, and if you can get a good score, and by a good score, it can be a guy who's just really good at 5 notes on a Casio keyboard, but if it's a guy who's really good at those 5 notes on a Casio keyboard, and he puts enough fucking stuff, and by the way, you can go on Spotify and spit and hit someone who would do a fucking synthwave film score for your fucking retro movie, and I mean that with the best one in the world. I mean, every Friday night, my buddy Scott on Retro Futurism 101 plays some of the best synthwave I've ever heard. And it's all dudes, like, doing shit like I do, like putting albums out and stuff on Bandcamp or whatever. So there's plenty of people out there. So first of all, there's no excuse. The more I talk about this movie, the more I'm actively fucking angry at this guy, because you haven't written anything. You haven't fucking thought of anything decent to do. You haven't put a lick of fucking effort into anything. You haven't looked up a good score guy. You haven't done sound effects to make the spaceship have weight, to make things have, like, to make metal chairs have a weight, to make, levers have a creak, make whatever. Like, focus. Sound doesn't cost you anything. You need a microphone and a bunch of things to like bang and hit. But fucking spend some time. But that's the problem. Is he's done all of the things wrong, and he's done what to my mind in 2021 is absolutely unforgivable. Back in the early, like back in 95, 96, when like computer visualizations or whatever were just coming out, you could forgive low-budget filmmakers going, okay, I can't make a Jurassic Park dinosaur, but I can make this, like, shonky CGI monster, and that's going to be my movie. And you kind of went, oh, okay, there's some charm to that. But in 2021, when a fucking 16-year-old on an Apple Mac can create, realistic-looking CGI, and again, there is a school in Florida, the Dave School, where literally graduates work on films around the world doing CGI as part of their thesis. Fucking go to one of those guys. Like, there's so many things that you could have done. Instead, it appears that you've gone, oh, these shonky plastic fucking Nerf guns that I have that I want to make, shoot moonshine. I can't think of how I'm going to do that. So let me go find my fucking dial-up internet CGI package from AOL from 1998, and I'll just do that, and that'll be fine, right? I mean, everything about this movie is so extraordinarily lazy. The one thing I will say is the only thing that isn't weirdly lazy, considering I've seen him give the laziest
I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out.
I have seen Bruce Willis.
I know.
Being paid $20 million, sleepwalking through a film. Here he is in a paint warehouse in, the Ukraine. And not that he's giving like the greatest Bruce Willis performance of all time, but he's at least, I don't know, hitting his marks and saying his lines.
He appears to be having a tiny bit of fun. Is what appears to be happening. A tiny bit of fun.
So I read an interesting article. I read an article in the Times about, because I looked up, like, why is Bruce Willis doing this? Like, surely...
I know, because I'm thinking, like, if you just did one season of, like, NCIS Toledo or whatever, right? Like, you'd get paid more than you... Well, I don't know what they get... I mean, either they had $1 million and they paid $999,999 to Bruce Willis, and then the extra penny was spent on everything else.
Yeah.
But like, why is there? What are you doing here?
Thomas Jane fought the 50 unnecessary extras for the final penny.
But like, what does he do? Because Jane, I get, like, Jane, he turns up, he's in the warehouse scene, and then he wakes up in the room, and then he's in the corridor. So he's a day. That's a day's shooting. Right. That's
by the way, 2/3 of the film, Bruce Willis is a hologram. So that's a day of him standing in front of a green screen.
It felt like he was in most of the movie. To be fair,
and I have to say, like, it was a very good. There was very good use of Willis, like, sprinkled throughout the movie. That's the one. I will give the director this. He learned the Donald Pleasance principle. And the Donald Pleasance principle is this. If you have Donald Pleasance for 3 or 4 days, which most of the B movies that Donald Pleasance littered his career with, he only did 3 or 4 days on. But the filmmakers he worked with, like Halloween, famously, he shot his scenes in Halloween in 3 days. But Carpenter makes sure he's at the beginning of the movie, the middle of the movie, and the end of the movie. And he makes sure that he's in multiple locations. So it looks like he's in the movie. That's 3 days. Like, we'll shoot him here, then turn the camera 360, we'll shoot the other scene there, then we'll go down the street a bit and shoot the other scene there. That's 1 day. Like, that's how he did it, right? And I have to say, the filmmaker, considering, he had 3 rooms and a corridor and a green screen to do the hologram sequences, did utilize Willis pretty well, because even when, as we were speaking about earlier, even when our chubby hero, in question marks, is crawling around a vent, an unusually large vent, I might add. Also, what's it for on the spaceship? Because there's nothing in there. Anyway, while he's crawling around the vent, the film director does go, well, I'll at least put Bruce Willis's hologrammatic floating head in here, because why not? Because let's get more Bruce Willis in here. So I'll give the director that. He learned the Donald Pleasance principle. I'm betting Bruce Willis did, I'm going to say probably 5 days at best on this movie. And one of those days was stood in front of a green screen doing innocuous one-liners as a floating head.
Do you think, are we looking at, and here's my question, are we looking at a cynical, well, it's a 2-part question. First of all, are we looking at a cynical money-making exercise where it's like, this is the streaming world now, right? Where it's rails and rails of stuff. So what you need is, this is what we need. We need an action film. We need a sci-fi film. We need a war film, whatever. So what we need is a cover that looks like a space film, and then like a famous person's face on it. And that's what we need to fill our slate. So in order for us to get our deal with Netflix, where we're delivering 50 movies, a year or whatever.
Well, not Netflix anymore. It's Amazon Prime mostly. Netflix doesn't clog its landscape with this shit anymore.
Okay. Well, fair enough. So but there's certainly, even if it's not Amazon, right? There's like Tubi and all that gubbins, right? There's like plenty of those like free movie sites.
Tubi, Pluto, and there's one other.
But even that, right? On Roku, it's just fields of like free movies, and this will be on there, right? So it's like you'll set up a slate where it's like you can buy, because it's all like, you need content, right? You need to fill up your whatever.
Yeah.
So you can buy 200 of our movies, and you'll get like Bruce. And like in order to make your slate look good, it's like you've got a Bruce Willis sci-fi, you've got a a Nick Cage action or whatever, right? And so is it just look, Dove director bloke, you've got a week, you've got a Ukrainian warehouse, shoot starts Friday, Bruce Willis is going to be there for 3 days, you've got Thomas Jane for a day, by the time it's over we want a movie. Oh, yeah. By the way, here's a script we dug up. It's got something to do with aliens and like a plague. Go. So I think that's what's happened, right?
It is.
It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a film with a lot of pre-production. So is he? If he's doing the best, if those are the conditions that he's working under, like disinterested producers, they've given him his money, he's got not a penny more. And he doesn't have any time for pre-production and no time for post-production because they're not going to pay for it. They just want something that's good enough to like sell. They're not really looking to do anything except make it part of a wider slate. Can he do better even under those circumstances?
Yes.
And so he can't shoot on film, right? He has to shoot on digital, so that's out.
Right, but it's simple.
Okay.
What I would do given that would be, even given this script, which, I mean, anyone could punch the script up better.
Well, that's true. That's a good point. Even if you've got no pre-production, while you're setting things up in a warehouse, you could give somebody a week and they could turn the script into something.
Right, but even while you're painting the bricks in the warehouse grey and copying the sets from Red Dwarf, why, you could have a guy go, so at the end of the movie, you've got them going around with moonshine, burning alien zombies. I need 5 one-liners. You know what I mean? And instead it comes like, let's burn them. Let's burn them. Let's burn these motherfuckers. And I'm like, really? You couldn't have come like have him. First of all, they never fill the guns up with moonshine. They should so have like a funnel in the top of the gun with like moonshine and then put moonshine in. And then someone go like, let us all shine on or something. I mean, anything. Like, I don't know. Like, I just came up with that and it's crap. But like, I don't know. And then you have like you find an indie band in in Belgium who want to do a cover of Instant Karma with We All Shine On in the background. I mean, I don't know. Like, you do something. Like you extrapolate.
You're right. What you're saying is, because even if you've got disinterested producers who've given you a budget and no time, and here's Bruce Willis, you've gone for 4 days, that's still like chance of a lifetime for most people.
Yes.
But presumably the reason they're picking, here's my thing.
It's not like, listen, it's not like
the reason they're picking the Doves.
It's not like Lloyd Kaufman. Fuck, I had his name a minute ago. Roger Corman, Lloyd Kaufman, Charlie Band. It's not like these famous indie producers ever gave any of their film directors like slack or carte blanche or money or anything like that. Like, they never did. Right. Like, they gave Joe Dante like a week in Texas and a bunch of cardboard cutout fish and went, make Piranha. And what he did was he made fucking Piranha. And 30 years later, everyone wants to watch Piranha and it's been remade and blah, 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 blah. Because it's fun, it's balls to the wall, you've got a bunch of great character actors bumping around in it. It's a premise that everyone can at least be scared about. You've got a bunch of close-up shots of like bits of meat being pecked out underwater so that you can just stick them in whenever you want. And like, he made a movie. He didn't just go to a warehouse and go, well, I got Bruce Willis and a Nerf gun that I'm going to CGI some blue vomit coming out of. Like he thought about it. He was like, well, let's get Dick Miller in here being a comedy Texan who wants to open up a water park, and let's get Paul Bartel as like a worrying, guy. Let's they're cliches, they're stereotypes, they're things we've seen before, but how do I put my stamp on it? How do I make it funny? How do I make it interesting? Not only that, but how do I keep the pace going? You know what I mean? Like, how do I have something happening? I've watched I don't know how many fucking slasher films, and even the worst slasher films know you have to have, a guy in a hood, a dark shadow, and the occasional shot of a blade and some blood squirting out. Like, they know what you need. And even if the rest of your movie is bollocks, at least every 10 minutes, someone jumps out of the shadows and goes, and stabs a guy. And you're like, all right, this movie will keep going then. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, it's not complicated. And I'm sorry, having no money, when you have Bruce Willis, Thomas Jane, a big warehouse, and that's not an excuse. It's just not an excuse, and I won't accept it.
So how is it that Bruce Willis is in this movie, then? How and why is he in it?
No, the bigger question is this. Why, at what point did Bruce Willis decide to sell his name rather than his performances? And the reason why I say this is I was reading that article in the Times all about, like, Bruce Willis, and a guy in the Times had seen basically every film he'd done since 2015, which is when he kind of started doing 4 films a year, and they're all shit. And he's like, it was an article that was written around the time of Breach, and he said what was nice about Breach comparative to the other ones is that at least in Breach he's throughout the film. Apparently in all these other movies, and I barely watched, I haven't even watched his remake of Death Wish, but in which at least he's the main part. But in all these other movies that litter his IMDb, he's in them for like 15 minutes. He's not in the whole film. And it is more cynical, like you say. It's like, we have a slate of things. We need a cop film, a sci-fi film, or whatever. And let's just put Bruce Willis's face on the poster and his name. He'll show up for a day and whatever. I get why the producers are doing it. And I get why the filmmakers want it. I don't get why Bruce Willis feels like he needs to do it. Nick Cage, for example, realized at a certain point he himself could have a lot more fun and do a lot more and get a lot more weirder films made if he went the straight to video, straight to streaming route, but worked with directors who had some, semi-interesting ideas, right? And Nick Cage has, for every, generic piece of crap, Nick Cage plays a gangster for 10 minutes in a, film that goes to Tubi movie. He's got 3 movies that are like The Color of Space or Willy's Wonderland or Mandy or Mum and Dad, or movies where he's working with... Or The Trust, right. Movies that have decent scripts, decent ideas, and allow him to do what Nick Cage has always liked to do, and that is be unconventional within a convention, right? And it allows him to do it. And he's, for every 2 or 3 shockingly bad Nick Cage movies, there's 2 or 3 that are actually you're really glad they got made. And but Bruce Willis isn't doing that. He's just doing the I'll show up and lend my... He's not even lending his name to the movie or his performance in the movie. He's lending his name to the poster. They can't be paying him enough. I just don't understand. What is he earning on a movie like Breach? $100,000? Maybe not even that. Back in the day, Bruce Willis was such a big star that him taking a pay cut to do Pulp Fiction to get his cred up meant him being paid $890,000. He was paid about $890,000 for Pulp Fiction, and that was him taking a pay cut. You know what I mean? But
that's why I don't get it. He could be a cop in a Law and Order, or do you know what I mean? Maybe he doesn't want to do. Maybe the reason is, this is something that I thought, maybe because he's come from TV. And Hollywood egos are weird, right? Let's not beat around the bush here. Hollywood egos are weird.
Well, this is the other thing, so I'll talk about it in a minute. But yeah, continue.
I wonder if he doesn't want to go back to TV because he came from TV,
right,
and now he's a movie star. And he prefers even if it's only for a day or whatever, turning up at a place and being on set the biggest thing happening there. TV, it's like, got to get out of the door, stand there, say your line, you're guilty, right, off, next thing. And it's all like, get it moving, let's go, right? No one's
say
like,
line, you're guilty, hit that.
Fucking hell, Bruce Willis is here, right? But everywhere he goes, people are going to be like starstruck by Bruce Willis. And presumably he's got more money than God at this point anyway, right? There's no way he spent all the money that he's earned.
No, and in fact, in the last 3 years, what's interesting, in the last 3 years, because I was looking up Bruce Willis articles, in the last 3 years, he's sold some sizable properties for like multi-million-dollar deals.
So the only thing that makes sense to me is the only thing that he needs and the only thing that he cares about is he likes being on set,
being Bruce Willis,
and being the biggest thing on that set, bigger than the director, bigger than the producer, bigger than anybody, bigger than any co-star, bigger than anybody's with. That's it. He's there. He's only there for a day. He spends the rest of his time, I don't know, polishing strawberries or whatever it is he wants to do, right? Making a fruit salad. And then
I don't think Bruce Willis has ever made a fruit salad.
But, for like 5 weeks a year, because if you're what he's saying, he makes 4 movies a year, 4 or 5 movies a year, and he's on them for like a day or two. That's like maybe a week's work, right? For a year. And for that week, he just gets to go to a place, feel like a benevolent presence, right? He's the biggest thing there. He's also dragging this like little movie up, or whatever. And he gets to feel great and big and important. And then he goes away and he eats his fruit salad. And that's his year. That's, a year in the life of Willis.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the most notable thing about Bruce Willis, or stories about Bruce Willis before this recent 5 to 10 year run of bollocks, was the Kevin Smith stories. And Kevin Smith tells 2 stories about Bruce Willis. One was working with him on Die Hard 4, and one was working with him on Cop Out. And on Die Hard 4, and again, this is Kevin Smith, and Kevin Smith is a bit of a gobshite, and I get it. Like, you can hate Kevin Smith and hate Bruce Willis, or you can like both of them, or you can like one or the other, because they're, they both have their faults. I totally get it. And I'm not trying to say that this is exactly gospel, but on Die Hard 4, for example, which was like a Len Wiseman movie, the guy who did the Underworld movies or whatever, married to Kate Beckinsale or whatever, Len Wiseman apparently got a massive ulcer working on Die Hard 4, and mainly because what Bruce Willis did, rather than Bruce Willis showing up and being like, Die Hard is my franchise, and I'm going to protect it, and I'm going to guide it, and I'm going to help you out, and we're going to make the best movie we can. He apparently rocked up in an enormous fucking trailer, had his chefs do barbecue all day while he sat in chairs, while people brought him rewrites. Like he's like screenwriters and stuff brought him rewrites of him being like, no, there needs to be more like me doing stuff here or whatever. Go away and come back again. While Len Wiseman was kind of like, well, wait a minute, aren't I the director? And kind of like running around trying to like wrangle the circus. And 90% of the time, he spent his time coaxing Bruce Willis away from like babes and meat and screenwriters, like wanting to kiss his ring, to get him to play John McClane. It's remarkable, actually, when you watch Die Hard 4, which to my mind is the last semi-decent one of the series, that it is any good at all. Like, it really is when you hear some of the stories from behind the scenes, if they're to be believed. And a lot of them did ring true. And then apparently, even though Bruce Willis kind of befriended Kevin Smith on Die Hard 4, and Kevin Smith had been a huge Moonlighting fan, a huge Die Hard fan and whatever, and certainly like kissed his ring and gave him all the spiel and was like, I'm a big fan of yours and blah, 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 blah. When Kevin Smith went to Willis with Cop Out, he's like, oh, I've got this blacklisted script. I'm directing someone else's script for the first time. I've got Tracy Morgan, and we're looking for like a buddy cop comedy thing. Why don't we like do a buddy cop comedy together? You could do your riffing because we know how much you love to like riff and do your one-liners. I'll punch up the script. Tracy Morgan will come and do Tracy Morgan, and we'll all have a good laugh in Brooklyn running around and whatever, right? And apparently, instead of, even though like they were friends on Die Hard and, everything was seemingly set up for like Bruce Willis just come in and be Bruce Willis, he apparently hampered and dogged that set every fucking day. And like, now look, it's a piece of shit, and I don't believe it was a blacklisted script, and I don't believe that there's anything worth anything in that movie to begin with, and I think that Kevin Smith was out of his depth, and there was too much money, and blah, 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 blah. There's lots of things wrong with that movie. But what I don't understand is why, when you think of the Bruce Willis who is just like, I need my trailer, and my women, and my food, and my bullshit, why when you hand him a movie that's seemingly geared entirely to that he torpedoes it with his ego. And then since Cop Out, apart from Die Hard sequels and the odd like crop up in an Expendables movie, and something like Motherless Brooklyn, which he did as a favor to Norton because they're old friends apparently, he's just done this slew of, like you say, lending a name to the movie. And I think you're right. I think better to be king for a day than schmuck for a lifetime, right? Or whatever. I think that's the mentality there, if there's any mystery to it at all. And I think occasionally he shows up on like a breach where the only bit of trivia about this movie, by the way, is that he's worked with one of the lead actors before multiple times. So this is the fourth time Bruce Willis and Johnny Messner have starred in movies together. Previously, they appeared in Tears of the Sun, The Whole 10 Yards, and Hostage. They will also appear together in two upcoming films, Cosmic Sin, which is the next sci-fi movie he did, and American Siege. So that's the only bit of trivia about this movie. Like that's the, and so to me.
But I wonder, is that indicative of like, is it the same studio? Is it the same like? Are they just going to the same pool because they've like got this, we do Willis film? No, they can't do that, can they? Because at a certain point, you can't sell like 50 movies where like 12 of them are Willis films. You can have like maybe 2 or maybe 3, but you're going to need like your other stars to make that work.
It's like most of these movies these days that show up on streaming. It's made by 3 production companies. And has like 20 distributors. So it's distributed by a whole bunch of people around the world, and it's made by 3 separate production companies. And then there are like, there's a couple of other companies that kind of did publicity and post-production on it. But these movies are normally made by a collaboration of, 3 production companies and 3 distribution companies or whatever. And certainly over here, when you put on the movie, there was like 7 logos before the
But then you get that a lot. You get that a lot on Netflix with like low budget horror films. There's like 12 companies funding them. Some of them are really, really good.
No, I get it. But what I'm saying is there's no longer.
You're right.
There's no longer the Roger Corman or the Charles Band or there's no longer like the face of these production houses. I tell you what this is more like. This is more like when VHS became big and then mom and pop video stores became big and Blockbuster became big and everyone needed content. Like shady guys in the Midwest and weird guys out in the Ukraine and mad guys up in Canada just went, fuck it. We'll buy anything. It doesn't matter if it's foreign, if it's independent, if it's shot on video, if it's whatever. If we can get an artist to do a snazzy enough cover for it, we'll sell it. Like that's more what this is like.
That makes sense. So by the way, I've really, really enjoyed talking about this movie. I knew I would because it wasn't. I didn't just want to sit here and talk about like, and why doesn't this bit of the plot work? Because I know that A, that gets quite tiring, and B, there's no bit of the film that isn't like that. I do love the most corrosive chemical known to man is in like Pepsi bottle. Yeah, I know, but no, I mean the trampolines. There's so much to talk about, but I just watching it, I really want to talk to you about it because I want to get insight into how it's possible to be given the same tools as this film was given and do it better. So I just really enjoyed the chat. So
the sad fact of it is, in terms of independent movies you've seen of the past that you've really loved, you know, I don't know, Evil Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, whatever, horror movies that started whole careers and careers that are still going, all of them to a man had 75% less than what this filmmaker had when he went in. So there's no excuse for this filmmaker. Anyway.
No, I agree. I wonder whether because he's a Dove director, they get him in because he turns up on time. He comes in under budget. He's a company man. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't have to worry about imagination or making a fuss. He'll get the job done. And all we care about is, like you say, a poster to put on a tile wall of a semi-popular streaming service. So I don't think we should do another Bruce Willis because I feel like we've gone down that road.
We have one more thing to do before this podcast ends, and then you and I can talk about other stuff afterwards. We have one more thing to do before this podcast ends. We will be playing this podcast out because I wanted to get something about the album in here.
Fair enough.
And I'm leaving it to the end, so I'm not putting it up front. I'm leaving it to the end. The album is called I've Been There. It's by Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures. The songs were written and produced by me, but it's got the amazing Johnny Cole on it, the amazing Hilda Haenix on it, the amazing Jay Mayo on it, the amazing Greg Singh on it. It's got some wonderful individual collaborators from Gary Hornseth and Mitch Armbruster and Johnny Unicorn. It is, I think, certainly the most polished and well played album that I've ever made. Certainly the 12 initial tracks are on it. I'm super proud of it, and I just want people to listen. I really want people to listen. And so for the next few episodes, I'm going to be very, very, very tangentially picking a song that could potentially fall alongside the whims of VOD-loving Jim Wallace. Because I have given him the reins for the next 3 to 4 episodes.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.
He can do that.
Appreciate it.
So you pick whatever you want and I'll watch it. I watched this one, so whatever. The song that I've picked is called Future Countries. And did you get to listen to it, Jim?
I did, mate. I did, yes. Future Countries. I don't really see the link between this one and the Bruce Willis movie other than the word future. Thematically, there was lacking, I guess.
There's a few lyrics in there that are to do with kind of bad decisions.
But yeah, that tracks nicely. No, it's a very nice one. It's got the nice. I like the rhythm changes. You know, the way that it goes from it's not exactly verse to chorus, is it? It's more just different sections of the song, which work very well. It's got that nice music at work. Harmony, lead singer, backup female singer harmony thing going on, and there's a bit it's not the end, but it's I don't know, the final bridge section or something where there's much stronger harmonies, right? Where there's I don't know whether it's double tracked or not. I couldn't really figure it out, but it was just really nice, wide moment of I guess it was you and Hilda, right?
Yeah, and I think Jay as well on that track, maybe.
Oh right, okay, yeah. Well, it worked really, really well. I mean, I think what you've done with the voices all the way through the album is really nice.
And I honestly want you to be candid because you've always been candid with me, and you are always a good critic. And if you're honestly, dude, I bought the album, I supported the album, but I haven't honestly listened to it, then just tell me that. That's fine. But do you have an overall opinion of the music that I've been putting out lately? Because I personally think that it's shot forward from what I was doing, but I'm interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, I mean, shot forward seems a little harsh on what you did before. I mean, I'm always going to have a soft spot for the 4-track. Do you know what I mean? That the 4-track aesthetic. I do think your voice and your style was always very well suited to that. But then those songs also went on for like 7 minutes and had, like 12 guitar solos in them. So, but yeah, I think what I admire most about this album, I think, is because I think you're right. I think your songwriting's come on leaps and bounds, right? It's the styles are very different song to song, but there's obviously like a theme going through all of them, and not a theme, not like an intellectual theme. Like it's obviously the same person like doing all these songs, even though they're very different sounds, right? And the way you've gotten people from all different parts of the world, right, to come together and make these songs in a way that they don't feel like it's all been like bolted on. Do you know what I mean? It feels like
a band.
It feels like a band, right? And I think especially in the context of how it was made, I think that's really valuable too, right? The fact that you did that in the middle of a pandemic, so it's not just like reaching out to like people in other countries. It's like asking people to reach out, like, you know, past their own door to do something, and you can tell that it's a gift for everybody on the album to be involved in it, you know, and that's really valuable, and that comes across, I think, in the music, that they are
what I was most excited
Jesus punch to be involved.
What I'm most excited about, that Jay got a 12-string guitar, so that every time I felt like linning up a song, I could like the beginning of Flying Cars, where it starts off and you're like, oh yeah, it's John and he's doing his little electric guitar thing, and that's nice. And then like Jay Mayo's like 12-string cha-chung 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 acoustic guitar comes in. I'm just like, I'm in Jeff Lynne heaven. Like it's such a good place to be. And so I threw, like, what was great is I just said to Jay, I was like, I might not use it on every track, but give me 12-string guitars up the wazoo for like every single song, and I'll cherry pick which bits I want to use 12-string Lynn.
So somewhere out there, you mean there's like a version of the album
that's all 12-string, yeah,
that's just all Jeff Lynne, like the Jeff Lynne version.
No. There's no, because often what Jay did on the 12-string, it wasn't the direction that the song ended up going in. There is a version of the album out there that I could do that would be just Jay's 12-string guitar and my vocals, if anyone ever wanted to hear that. But no, okay. Let me ask you this: do you like the music? Like genuinely like the music? Not because of me, not because of like the lyrics or whatever. Do you like the music?
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, of course. You're very prolific, and so the songs, like I say, that it tends to be a range of styles rather than like an album that sounds like X, do you know what I mean? Or an album that sounds like Y. And I think that that's a good thing. I think that your strength is in your eclecticness. That's not really the word, but like the eclectic mix of sounds and songs and songwriting styles even within it. Like, as I say, there's like a songwriting style going through all of them, but it's all applied in a slightly different way, in a slightly different direction. So every album is like,
well, it's like I would rather make Rain Dogs or Mule Variations first time out the gate, rather than Waits did 3 albums that had this sound, 3 albums that had this sound, and then did Rain Dogs. Then he did 2 more albums that had a different sound. Then he did Mule Variations. And Mule Variations and Rain Dogs both have like, oh, here's Waits doing like acoustic Springsteen style stuff.
Right.
And then here's Waits banging on a thing and doing some German expressionism madness. And then here's Waits singing in a blues bar as it closes down. Like he did all of his styles in an album. And Rain Dogs and Mule Variations are like they're like the gateway to Waits. You don't have to listen to like the Black Rider, which is him just screaming and going mental, and you don't have to listen to like the whimsical Bones Howe early piano stuff. You can have a flavor of all of it on one album. And also, my other theory behind it is that all the indie artists that I've got associated with on Twitter, this little community that I'm involved in.
Right.
Very interestingly, most of them are doing singles. Most of them are like, I'm going to work 3 months on one song, and then I'm going to bet the farm on like one song.
That's a good. I can see the logic behind that.
And I'm gonna throw out this one song, over and over and over and over and over again, and my follow up will be a second song, right? And that's fine. That's like, for some people, that's absolutely great. There's no way I would have any patience with that at all. There's no way I could release one song. But with an album like I've Been There, the best thing I can say about it is that a song like Anchor Lost, a song like Ready Now, a song like Flying Cars, a song like Superimposed Stars, those songs can go out as one song. You don't have to listen to the rest of the album. Those songs say what they need to say within a nice 4-minute package, and they're different enough that they'll stand by themselves, but they are similar enough and have the same, like the benefit of having a band and the benefit of having on this album everyone in that band more or less play on almost every song. There's only one song that's just me. Hilda sings on, I think, every song but one. Jay Mayo plays instruments on every song but one. And Johnny is on like 6 tracks or something.
Right.
The benefit of that is sure, if we go one way or another genre-wise, it at least sounds like a collective. It sounds like all the same people are playing that song. They might be playing a blues song, and they might be playing a rumba, or they might be playing a ballad.
Right.
But it's those people playing a ballad. You know what I mean? It's not...
Yeah.
Whatever. So I like that it's an album that I think you can sit and listen to the 12 songs and get something out of each song, and it takes you on a journey. But at the same time, if Anchor Lost, which is the most like commercially viable one, because it really is just like a, it's like the closest I'll ever get to writing like a Celine Dion song or something, because it's a female vocalist. It's kind of got like a power ballad vibe, but, it's got kind of more esoteric lyrics, right? So that at least can kind of go out into the world as its own thing. And, I can put some weight behind that, you know what I mean? So I don't know, like that's how I look at it. And I just wanted to know from someone who I respect hugely and who I've always respected your opinion. And I'm not looking for praise and I'm not looking for like criticism necessarily. I just wanted to know like what you personally felt when you heard it. That's all.
Yeah, man. Well, like I said, the release of a new Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures album is always a delight. I will always, do you know what I mean? I'll always do the thing you're supposed to do, in my opinion, which is buy it on Bandcamp and then listen to it on Spotify, right?
Right.
Everything I've ever bought of yours, I don't think I've ever listened to it on Bandcamp. I just buy it and then I go straight to Spotify, right? Because this seems to be the best way to go.
Because you're a solid gold, highly polished gent.
But it's certainly been, it's interesting watching the journey from, getting a few collaborators in to like help out, like spice up a couple of songs, to being like, actually, this is the thing I'm interested in. Like, actually, it's getting these people together, filling out the songs in ways that I wouldn't be able to do on my own, either because like it's a female singer or it's someone that can play the trumpet, or even if it's just like a different voice like Jay Mayo, right? It's just a way of exploring the possibilities that are open to you when it's, you and your guitar and, and I mean, it's not, and a screen, I guess, like the track, right? You've got a track and what are you going to put on that track? And I think seeing you go from just kind of opening it up and now filling it up, right? Now every song is, like you say, is full of people adding their own sound and their own feeling to these tracks. So it ends up being like, even though it's you writing the songs, there's like an evolution of those albums, since I'm not sure which one it started with.
Well, the three that I consider like the band albums, the package band albums, are Where Our Hearts Can Be a Shambles.
That's right, yeah, the Shambles one.
Truer Crimes, and I've Been There.
Yeah, because Truer Crimes, that's the first one Johnny was on, right? And then Shambles was Jay Mayo and a couple of other people.
I think Johnny was on...
Nick. Didn't Nick do something on Shambles?
Nick's all over Shambles. Nick didn't get to play on True Crime or I've Been There, which is a real shame. I would have loved that aspect to it. But Nick is on Nick is on Where Our Hearts Can Be a Shambles. Johnny did Johnny do something on Where Our Hearts Can Be a Shambles?
I thought his first thing was True Crime, but I could be wrong.
Oh, it was Mitch. Mitch and Johnny Unicorn played the horns on Where Our Hearts. But Where Our Hearts was the first time I had brass music. But I think of it as the one I always forget about actually is Former Glory, because Nick played on that. Johnny Cole played on Former Glory. That's when he did For the Leafs.
Oh, that's right.
So Former Glory, and Former Glory has the cover that you picked.
I love that cover.
Which is me.
The album titles are all great as well. I mean, I love Former Glory and Where Our Hearts Could Be a Shambles and I've Been There. These are great titles.
Thank you. Well, I think about them a lot, and I think.
Yeah, so, I know.
So you're right. There's the quadrology is Former Glory, Where Our Hearts, Truer Crime, and I've Been There.
So what's next? That's the question. What's next?
I know what's next.
Is it going to be a what's a quintelogy? No, that can't be right.
No, it's going to be something different. But
is it? No more collaborations?
Oh no. I'll go back to
Is it going to be Big Beat?
Big Beat? What's Big Beat?
Isn't that like Fatboy Slim and stuff like that? Isn't that Big Beat? I don't know. I'm not very good.
I don't know what Big Beat is, but you just said Big Beat. So, yes, my next album will be Big Beat.
Well, I think you'd be very good at Big Beat. I think very well.
I have an idea for what the sound of the next album will be. I'm not going to say that there are no collaborators, because I want to at least have one collaborator, but I don't think I'm going to do another I've Been There thing just yet. I think that will. I don't think I'm also not going to do what I did like last year. Every time Bandcamp Friday came around, I put out like a 5-song EP.
Yeah, I was very impressed with that you were able to do that. That was super cool. Every time there was one, you had something out there, whether it was like an EP or an album or whatever. It was very cool that you were able to do that.
And obviously
that focus and
the Pleasant Thing 2 was one of those as well. I think the next album.
I can't believe, how long did it take you to do that one?
Pleasant Thing 2 I did in 3 days.
See, that just blows my fucking mind that took you 3 days. Blows my mind. The imagination. I don't know how I did that.
I don't know how I did that. I was in a zone.
In 3 days. Yeah, clearly. I mean, I guess that's an argument, right, for doing things. It doesn't always work. But there is an argument for, like, there are some albums that, were made in a very short period of time. And clearly and some of them are presumably rubbish and I've never heard them. But the ones that work, it's because like that, people are in a zone. So I guess there's something to be said for giving, certainly it seemed to work for you last year, giving yourself these, not exactly arbitrary deadlines, but like it wouldn't have taken much for you to go, fuck it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But instead, like set yourself that goal and then every month, right? That's what the Bandcamp Friday was. Every month, having something ready that was worthwhile, not just like, I've, remixed, Free as a Bird or whatever,
right.
Like something worthwhile. That really, I was hugely impressed by that.
Well, it wasn't so much. So it was two things. There were deadlines, but also I kept writing. Like it wasn't. I didn't finish an album and go, okay, I'm going to take a breather. What's interesting is with I've Been There, and it's a combination of work, moving. Bacon, it's a combination of everything that's going on right now, but I'm not writing right now. Like I didn't finish I've Been There and keep writing.
Right.
I finished.
Do you feel like that it is going to be like a natural break where you'll take a breather and maybe come back to it like in a little while?
Yes, I think probably the thing I'm thinking of, if everything settles down here within the next couple of weeks, so we finally move on April 10th. That's the last time I've really got to kind of be worried about like scheduling and everything. Once that's all done, hopefully Bacon's feeling better because we went to the vet this morning and she's getting some drugs and stuff. Kim will be recovered from the vaccination. I'll be able to, the summer will be rolling in. Hopefully you'll come visit. Like, I'll have a bit more breathing room, and my mind will be able to wander a little bit. I need my mind to be able to wander, and right now there's too much in it to write anything about it. If I wrote anything now, it'd just be like, I hate everyone at work type songs.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. You need to be a little... And also because I suppose the attraction of writing music when you're stuck in an apartment in a pandemic is the chance to leave those walls, right? Whereas you've done that and you're doing things and you're seeing new things all the time, and now's the time to absorb all that and just live it, and you can write about it later.
The next album essentially has to be my, like, McCartney-esque I've moved to Scotland type album.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
I'm looking forward to it, mate.
But yeah, so coming up now at the end of this podcast is the song Future Countries, tangentially but not in any way at all linked to tonight's movie Breach, which I don't think we actually said the title of the movie.
No, we did a few times, but not at the beginning, I think. No, we did, because you did the whole introduction text thing. It worked.
Yeah, don't. We are breached. Okay, man. So with that, thank you ever so much. And here is Future Countries.
Buildings of my memory stand the weather, stand the time. Will they hold up to the distance, the assault of future countries and the occasional crime? Change to find a thick layer of dust on every surface. Or will someone take my spot? Hang up their own pictures, paint the walls and break up the recollection of purpose. Keep moving, but keep a place for all of these structures, for the familiar embrace, for the moments and madness, for the silence and the sadness. Keep a corner set aside, unaffected by the ride, unaffected by the ride. Can these objects, long collected, carry with them where they've been? Can decay be halted by existing conditions? This thread is delicate and barely seen. You can know it, they can show it, but there's nothing easy about this equation. Brace for impact, strap yourself in. This runaway train has left the station. The signs point towards corrosion. There's no polish on the dead-end path. Stay safe, but not too safe. There's always one clear choice not taken in the aftermath. Keep moving, but keep a place for all of these structures, for the familiar embrace, for the moments and the madness, for the silence and the sadness. Keep a corner set aside.